Ramble part 2. I have been asked a couple of questions, and I also came to my mind that I forgot one thing. It's actually two things I forgot, and the third is an answer on some guy's question. The first thing I want to put a light on is reversion. I'll show you. I use this big one. Reversion is when you're having the carburetor and having full throttle, and you get that cloud of fuel. Let's say you're having full power at 12,000, 13,000 RPM, whatever RPM you got. And you got this cloud of fuel behind the carburetor. You need to think twice about that. The answer isn't that easy that one might think. Reversion is seldom good. But why does it occur? There are several reasons, but I'll take two. Sometimes the engine sucks in its mass of air, fresh air mixture, and before the reeds are closing, it spits out some again, and that's not good. That's bad reversion, because you are spilling out you're spilling out a volume that could have been inside the crankcase instead and make power. If spitting it out, it just blends up the fuel twice in the carburetor and pulsation back and forth. But there are a second reversion also. They aren't that bad. It is reversion, you seldom can see any difference of them, but you can see a difference on the dyno sheet or in the butt dyno. That reversion is when you got the air column going so fast, pushing the reeds open, and you get that air ramming into the crankcase, even though the piston is going downwards. And when the forces of the pressure rises, the force of the intake column is equalized by the pressure. It's hard to tell, hard to explain in English as it is in my first language. But the reed balls are closing before the air column has stopped. And thereby you got a reversion of that. The reed petals are closed and the air column is bouncing and out the carburetor again. That means you cannot get any more into the crankcase, and you still get reversion. And with blade thickness and altering this progressive setup I was talking about in part 1, you can alter RPM where this occurs and see on the dyno sheet if it's gain or losses or everything. My take on this is that it will almost always be a reversion on the engine. Maybe not where you got maximum torque, because maximum torque is where you got the highest fill grade of the engine, V, volumetric efficiency. But further up in RPM it might be some reversion, and just take it for what it is. If you got this set up, let's say you got 125cc engine and it produces on the dyno hard tuned, and it produces 45 to the wheel or more. Take a step back and think. That reversion I'm seeing it isn't bad. It's actually working, and you might not ever be able to get rid of it. So there are, as I said, two reversions, one bad and one good. And the good one, you can't see difference from the bad one. You need to check on the dyno sheet. There are one thing to see it, but the hobby dyno guy doesn't have it. I do not have it. Let's say you got a air mass metering device that's measuring. Say you got a carburetor and a big air box and a device that's metering incoming air. If the total air, even though it's reversion, is more, it consumes more air than on the other setup that's reversion with the wrong, faulty reversion, so to say. But just look at the dyno sheet. Or when you got this reversion, test softer blades or test harder blades. See what the dyno curve is telling you. If it is, let's say, let me think. If it's becoming worse with thicker blades, it's climbing downwards in RPM, and you got more. Whatever. I won't say. I need to think about that. I'll revert on this. I need to think off camera. Otherwise, I will just talk about this, and you will not understand anything what I'm talking about. However, coming into this, I was thinking of it right now, but I need to split up, and my brain doesn't work on that way. So I need to do a checklist. But on this list now, soft pedals or hard pedals versus big crankcase and small crankcase. I would say if you are having a small crankcase volume, you need softer pedals, and the other way around. This due to pipe signal into the crankcase needs to have an easier job to pull air from the carburetor through the reeds. And yeah, I might be wrong here. Someone can help me, but I think it is like this. The smaller volume, the softer pedals, or other way around. But we're coming into a question that a guy asked me. Tune length on intake. There are helmholz you need to calculate, but there are second, fourth and eighth pulsation you use, if I'm correct. Otherwise it's first, second and fourth. I think it is second, fourth and eighth. And first pulsation, the second one, intake will be so short, so you cannot ever make it. It's impossible. You just can't have any intake to those RPM levels. And eighth pulsation, the intake tract will be so long, so it is losses due to friction inside the long runner. So the power will drop. So often you tune at the fourth pulsation. And fourth pulsation, this is just a thumb rule. I won't go into calculation now because there are info on the web, you can calculate yourself. But I can give you this guide. If having, say, 125cc engine, or whatever you got, and you got a 38mm carburetor, and you want pulsation to tune at somewhere around 13,000 RPM or in that region. There aren't short enough carburetors on the market. That's the way it is. You can see older MotoGP bike, the Lottos from Aprilia. They were very short, but they weren't short enough. They couldn't make it shorter. But this one, if going up an area of the carburetor or downwards, the length alters to get the same tune. So if you want to pulse tune it and not being able to get the length correct, you can go up in diameter, and by that you need to have a longer carburetor. But my advice around that, just make as short as you can and you're home free. That's you cannot go wrong with that, because pulsation might get you some power, but you can also gain losses with the friction in the intake runner and everything. So I would say there's nothing to worry about right there. Just go as short as you can. I've seen that also in car tuning, when tuning turbo engines, not turbo, supercharged engine or power adder engine, over pressure engine. The market is leaning towards getting shorter and shorter intake runner, because they also have noticed that there are losses due to the long runners to get the pulses correct. Is there any more I need to enlighten? Of course I will think of that when I'm shutting off right here. But well, I'll close off here. This will be a small update. Maybe as soon as I pause, or tomorrow. I'll cut the end away if it's tomorrow. Yeah, we'll see you later in the www world of two-stroke tuners. Bye. And of course, I forgot to mention, I cut in right here myself. I will place some pictures up below, something down here, and some links below, or anyway one link for you to view. And yeah.